What is going on, everybody? Depraved Slasher here. We are back with another music reaction. I'm Depraved.
I'm Hellcat.
And together we are
HellaDepraved.
And we are back. I didn't pick any actual music today.
Right.
You picked up music.
I did.
I picked other things.
Right. Because we didn't do them earlier this week.
Honestly, I just didn't have anything that I knew that I wanted to do.
Oh, okay. Well, there's that too.
It's kind of what it boiled down to. So, this is What Culture Horror. One of my favorite channels.
Right.
And this is the 10 worst betrayals in horror movie history.
All right.
I'm curious as to what they classify as a betrayal.
Right. Right. Because I'm not seeing, like, Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elm, but, like, I don't see betrayal when I see him.
Right.
Or at least his character. So.
Yes and no. He did fall asleep.
But is that really classified as a betrayal versus just sheer stupidity? I mean, I know that he was supposed to be there for his girlfriend and everything, but I don't know. I don't know. It's not the worst betrayal, I guess. Sorry, guys. We've got a kitten.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So, with that being said, we are going to react to this as if you guys have already seen it. If not, click the link in the description below. Hop on over to all the things coming back. And we say that because we're a commentary, reaction, breakdown comedy channel. What that means is we will pause for any and or all of the above. So with that being said, it is time to watch it and break it down. This is...
Agree or disagree?
Right, pretty much.
Yeah.
10 worst betrayals in horror movie history.
All right.
From What Culture Horror. Let's get it.
Trust is a two-way street in horror movies. Our protagonists usually need all the friends they can muster, so why would anyone, especially a friend or trusted confidant, choose to screw over someone in need? Well, it could be for self-preservation, greed, or power, but whatever the reason, it doesn't take the sting out of the act anymore for these following characters. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 worst betrayals in horror movie history. Number 10, Guy the CASTEVETS, Dr. SAPIRSTEIN, and Dr. Hill betray Rosemary, Rosemary's baby. Rosemary Woodhouse has everything she ever dreamed of. A stylish Manhattan apartment, a husband on the verge of getting his big acting break, and the imminent pitter-patter of tiny feet. The only issue is that she's actually pregnant with the son of the devil himself, and is about to realize that nearly everyone she loved and trusted is actively conspiring against her. For instance, her husband Guy has made a pact with the Satanist neighbors, the CASTEVETS, to elevate his career and has placed her in the care of the evil Dr. SAPIRSTEIN. When she eventually attempts to flee, she contacts her original doctor, the good, kind Dr. Hill, who also indirectly betrays her as well, dragging her back to the waking nightmare that has become her life. Now, in this situation, it is hard to say who betrays Rosemary the worst, and after all, some betrayals are unintentional. I mean, Hill had no idea that he was condemning her to this life, but the realization that there is no one left to help her still cuts a bit deep. Number 9, Marge.
A bit.
That is an interesting...
Her whole life is betrayal. And there she goes. That was a fail. I know you can't see it, but that was a fail.
It was.
Yeah.
It's actually been an extremely long time since I watched that movie, and I don't even know if I've seen it all the way through.
It was another of those that, like, I understand its cult placement and how iconic it was and everything. It was kind of hard for me to watch, because honestly, it was like, it was boring. For large parts of it.
Right.
I have watched it all the way through. I haven't watched it recently. But that entire thing was betrayal. Honestly, if you think about it, almost the worst thing is her own body's betraying her with the kid she really, really wanted.
Right. And
now she is unable to do anything about, you know, whose child it is. Kind of thing. So, yeah.
All right.
I like how Josh was like, why do they betray? And I was like, they're just people. That's why people do that.
Yeah, people are sucky.
Yeah.
is a terrible mother in Nightmare on
That's
Elm
true.
Street. The role that parents play in the
That's
Nightmare
true.
on Elm Street series was crucial to its story. I mean, hell, it's they who are directly responsible for the life-threatening mess that Nancy, Glenn, Rod, and Tina are in the first place. That's because when filthy child murderer Fred Krueger was released on a technicality, the outraged parents cornered him in his lair and burned him alive. Nancy's mum Marge straight out admits the crime at one point as well, though this isn't the betrayal in question. Instead, it's Marge's refusal to accept that Freddy is now back and is killing from beyond the grave in nightmares that cuts deep. Not only does she not listen to her daughter, she actively puts her in danger.
Okay. Couple things about that. They wouldn't have known that their seeking vengeance would create a dream monster. Like, if we're just talking about reality versus horror movies, they wouldn't have known that.
Right.
So, honestly, I don't see that first thing as them putting their kids in danger. Yes, it was their mess, but on the flip side, they just would not have known that this was even possible.
Right.
Second of all, like, the betrayal, I think, starts... It's less about what she did in the past and more about the fact that while in reality this shit shouldn't happen, how does her daughter know this name anyway? And that's the point when Marge should have been like, yo, this is what happened. Like, I get that she wouldn't believe.
If she could even carry on a basic thought structure with the
All the
alcoholism.
Well, you have to think,
from.
like, she's now a murderer. Granted, of a pedophile, but she's now a murderer, so... and divorced, so of course she she has enough thought to, you know, not believe Nancy. And so I guess what frustrates me the entire movie is she obviously knows who Nancy's talking about. So even though in the structure of reality it's easy for her to dismiss what Nancy's saying in terms of this is who's doing it, because she knows this person's dead. She should have at least addressed, like, where did you hear that name? Like, this is who it was, and dude's dead. You know, so I don't know what's going on, but this can't be what's going on, which, of course, it is. But that's, like, the approach that I would have been okay with.
Right.
Versus a outright denial of everything. Yeah.
Refusal to accept that Freddy is now back and is killing from beyond the grave in nightmares that cuts deep. Not only does she not listen to her daughter, she actively puts her in danger, barring the windows of the family home to protect Nancy, unwilling to accept the reality of the situation and effectively imprisoning her own daughter. This short-sighted betrayal effectively kills Nancy's boyfriend Glenn, as her daughter is powerless to help. At almost every step, Marge refuses to listen and just drinks herself into a stupor, leaving Nancy with all the danger and herself with none of the responsibility, even though she bears nearly all of it. Number 8, Armand secretly betrays Louis and Claudia. Interview with the Vampire. In Interview with the Vampire, Louis faces immortality with Lestat, a narcissistic vampire.
I think it technically counts as a horror movie because it's got vampires in it. It might be like a different subgenre of horror, like romantic horror.
Yeah, no.
But
it's paranormal romance. That's not horror.
Well, so here's the thing too, though. Like Vampire in Brooklyn, which is a comedy movie,
right,
is still considered comedic horror.
Yeah, but Interview is strictly like it's paranormal romance. Like that's its literary genre. I protest this decision.
Great movie though.
A fabulous movie.
It's actually my favorite vampire movie all time. Well, my second favorite vampire movie all time.
Definitely is a world of betrayal in it. But on the flip side, I protest this decision. It can't be a worst betrayal in horror movie history when it's not even a freaking horror movie. I mean, like, even Tom Cruise did decent in this. You can't claim it as horror. Like, come on now. Probably the best role that he did.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I actually do like the first Matrix.
There's a couple that he actually did very well.
That was Keanu, wasn't it?
Yes.
My bad. I get them two mixed up.
How?
They look the same.
Are you saying all white guys look the same? Because they look nothing
No, I'm saying
alike.
them two white guys look the same.
They look nothing alike.
Look a lot alike. The only difference is...
I hear crickets outside.
The only difference is...
It's applicable.
Tom Cruise can actually act, whereas Keanu Reeves looks like he's lost all the time.
Well, no. More than one difference. You are correct. But Keanu is actually a legit nice guy. And
Definitely.
Tom Cruise can suck a dick. Yeah. So, what are you looking at?
I'm looking to see what genre of movie this is.
It's not horror. I mean...
It is considered horror.
That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous.
It's considered a gothic horror.
Yeah, gothic romance, I would accept. Gothic horror? No. No. You may continue.
The internet has spoken!
The internet's fucking wrong. Not for the first time, may I add.
She just moved right on past my Family Guy reference.
Yeah, no, I'm firmly in this camp, and I will reign supreme.
Okay.
It's not fucking horror.
Okay. I don't consider, like,
in interview with the
Jaws horror either, but it is horror.
Yeah, but that is at least an acceptable inclusion.
I also don't consider Scream horror, but it is.
Again, it's still it's an acceptable inclusion. Interview is not an acceptable inclusion.
For you.
No, there's nothing horror about it.
It's got vampires, that's horror.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And Rice writes panty dampeners, not horror books.
She wrote a horror book.
No, she
gothic horror.
She will be the first to tell you this is
A gothic panty wetter horror.
This is a bodice ripper.
A bodice ripper?
A bodice ripper is what they're called.
What?
Women rip their bodices because they get so...
Oh.
Yeah.
Bodice?
No! No! That makes it sound like... I don't know.
I thought you were talking about Buddhist strippers and we're just mispronouncing it.
No. I still protest this decision.
Okay.
The vampire Louis faces immortality with Lestat, a narcissistic vampire who delights in teasing Louis and using him to bankroll his adventures in the new world. When Louis threatens to leave though, Lestat sires Claudia, a child vampire, as a way to bind Louis to him. Louis and Claudia attempt to kill Lestat and flee to Europe, finally encountering other vampires living in an old theatre in Paris. Claudia, however, is then captured and killed by the Coven as revenge for Lestat, leaving Louis heartbroken and vengeful. Consequently, Louis enters their lair at dawn, armed with a scythe and enough petroleum to bring the building down. Going full Hulk mode, he kills the vampires and even cleanly cleaves Claudia's executioner in
Nice
two.
alliteration.
However, at this point, he doesn't realize that his new vampire pal Armand was actually behind the attack on Claudia and so leaves Armand alive. Years later though, Louis and Armand walk the halls of an art gallery and discuss the events in Paris. Armand attempts to cover his crime and denies everything, dismissing the quote-unquote decadent ways of the Parisian vampires. Louis, however, has since learned the truth, that Armand was indeed responsible, and leaves Armand with an eternity alone to contemplate his betrayal. Number 7, Mike.
It at least qualifies as a betrayal.
No. Like I said, the movie is rife with it. Because honestly, there's even Claudia's unintentional betrayal, I guess I would say. Twice. Well, 3 times. First, she slits Lestat's throat. You know, that is in it. That was her sire. That is kind of a, well, yeah. And then she has created her own vampiress out of her nanny because she was worried Louis was going to leave her. And that, honestly, is one of the reasons Armand kills them. That and Claudia's age. And now he knows that she can't control herself because she sired somebody. But also just Claudia's personality. She's just as narcissistic and self-centered and manipulative as Lestat was. And Louis was looking for an actual, he had a soft spot for kids, but he's been looking for an actual partner the whole time. And then, of course, Armand turns out to... They had rules, and they were broken. But he should have told him from the get-go, you know, kids are a no-no. And then maybe they could have run away, far away. Who knows? Who knows?
Did you just go shit? Because I smell shit.
He's talking to the kitten. Yeah.
I am. Alright, so number 7 here. Mike throws away the map from the Blair Witch Project. I feel like we've been betrayed by this even being made.
I was going to say, that's the first betrayal. The movie.
And honestly, Mike throwing away the map was the only part of the movie that I didn't hate.
Right.
Because it was funny.
Unfortunately, so I've seen part of it, guys, but I get so motion sick. So motion sick that I didn't make it much of the way. I was there present the entire time it was being played. Several times.
Spending a lot of time.
Yeah, I just couldn't look. Yeah, so I've heard it, but visually I have not seen it all the way through. The second one was much better.
Mike throws away the map, the Blair Witch Project. The most often discussed elements of the Blair Witch Project usually come down to 2 main points. These supernatural forces which haunt the forests of the Black Hills, and secondly, the found footage style of filmmaking. There is, however, another element to this film which many people found far more unsettling than the first 2, and that is the simple notion of getting lost in the woods. With miles and miles of land to cover, getting lost in the States especially is potentially life-threatening if you're unprepared. So when Heather asks who has the map and Mike admits to throwing it in the river the previous day, the betrayal of trust stings hard and subtly confirms their doom. Hell, Heather even uses the word betrayed in the scene, as she's absolutely fuming at what he's done as the realization sinks in that they may never escape from the forest. Number 6.
Now, there's one fan theory about this movie that I found absolutely interesting. And that's that these 2 guys actually came in the woods to kill her. And everything was set up by them.
Right.
To get her to that house so that they could kill her in that house. Even like faking losing the map.
Right.
Walking her around in circles. Like they were, like the fan theories, there really is no witch.
It was just...
It was them trying to find a way to get away with basically getting away with killing her. Because one of the guys is her ex.
Right.
And then the other guy is like his friend.
Huh.
Who's an interesting...
Never go anywhere with your ex.
No.
That's just a rule of thumb. I think everybody should have gotten from, I don't know, natural instincts.
Right.
But, yeah.
And I definitely am glad this is on the list.
I agree with this entirely.
The students, the teachers, and her own mother, Carrie. Poor Carrie White. I mean, is there anyone in this film who doesn't betray her? Her mother, her friends, her teachers, the lot. They're all bad. She's teased, bullied, humiliated, and sold out by everyone she knows, which goes some way to explain the film's finale, as Carrie murders a lot of people. Dominated by her religious maniac of a mother, bullied for being different, totally unaware of how her body works, and oblivious to the immense psychic power that she possesses, Carrie just wants...
One person, the coach. Her gym teacher. He said everybody does. And no, her gym teacher tries to be on her side. So that is the one person.
Right.
Which is sad. There's one person.
Her body works, and oblivious to the immense psychic power that she possesses, Carrie just wants a normal life. Despite her treatment though, she's still blindsided when the ultimate betrayal actually comes. As a classmate feels guilty over the abuse Carrie received after having a period in the locker room, she sets her up with a prom date. However, Carrie has no idea that to some kids this is another opportunity for more humiliation, and that a bucket of pig's blood is waiting to soak her as she unexpectedly takes her prom queen throne. After this, she finally snaps and, using her telekinetic abilities, locks the whole doors and sets about crushing, burning, and generally slaying a lot of people. Number 5,
Good for
Hella
her.
lures the friends to Swedish hell, Midsummer.
Get him, girl. Get him. I love the ending. I love the ending.
You know, I actually really enjoyed the remake too.
Me too.
A lot of people...
100%.
It's another one of those remakes. So here's the thing. It's one of those remakes I don't think is better or worse than the original. I think it's evenly as good.
Right.
If anything, just for the updated visuals.
Right. And look, the actress was fantastic. I get what some people say in terms of...
She looks too possibly beautiful.
Too polished to be bullied and this and that. But here's the thing. If you think about it, like, first of all, the students that are in the remake look way more like the students that I went to school with. Like, wearing makeup early, dressed to the nines, you know, the whole 9 yards. So that part of a lot of people's argument, which was like, high schoolers don't look like that. Yeah, there are some high schools that they do.
Yep.
And it honestly does not matter how beautiful either of these Carrie White actresses are. It doesn't matter, because if you think about the kids that were homeschooled that came into your school, they got bullied for not being worldly, part of the scene, people that, you know, so the fact that she grew up with this maniacal mother and is so naive to the way the world works and is an introvert, the whole 9 yards, she would have been bullied anyway. Wouldn't have mattered how pretty she was.
You're gesticulating as...
I know. Called
the
a kitten. It's kind of like, you know, a summoning. So, yeah. I'm just saying that part of everyone's...
gesticulating.
It is gesticulating. That whole part of the argument in terms of why the remake is not as good doesn't fly for me.
Right.
And again, I think there's pros and cons to both. I think they're equally as good. But I do like the ending scene in both of them where she kills everyone. Right. I'm with it.
All right, this is a movie I've never seen. Midsummer.
Samar.
When is a friend not a friend? Well, when they lure you to a Scandinavian retreat and murder people in a series of grisly and bizarre drug-induced pagan rituals right after the death of your entire family, all while your boyfriend is being a total asshole. That's when. Midsummer is the superb 2019 follow-up to Ari Aster's breakthrough occult horror Hereditary, which, considering how good Hereditary was, is no mean feat. Here, protagonist Danny tags along with her boyfriend and his mates to Sweden, so they can get some work done on a thesis and she can try to heal from the murder-suicide of her parents.
I mean, I'd say the greatest betrayal is the murder-suicide of her parents. Just, you know, out the get-go.
Can get some work done on a thesis and she can try to heal from the murder-suicide of her parents and sister. Little do they know that Pelle, a Swedish local and unipal, has bigger plans for them. These plans mostly include the lads being skinned, hacked up, blood-eagled, and burnt alive. All at the careful planning of Pelle himself. Coming across like a benevolent friend and caring type of dude, he is indeed quite charming. So much so that no one suspects him of being capable of such betrayal. I mean, I know people get carried away at festivals, but that would be ridiculous, right? Number 4, Norman's murderous infidelity.
I kind of want to see that movie now.
It sounds like the festival version of Hostel. I'm here for it.
What Lies Beneath. It's a good movie.
It is. It's actually a very...
Will you stay out of the light, jerk face?
She is sticking her face through our ring light. It's kind of cute. I mean, it's the only halo she'll ever wear.
True.
What lies beneath? When is a betrayal felt most acutely? Yeah, I know I'm all about the questions today, but I'll ask again. When is a betrayal felt most acutely?
Double Jeopardy.
Well, it's when a trusted lover or
That's
friend
when.
sells you out for personal gain. What Lies Beneath is a classic ghost story from Robert Zemeckis, starring Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford. Pfeiffer's Claire is convinced that their house is haunted. Apparitions are appearing in the bath, messages are being written in steam, and mysterious clues point to a murder. What Claire doesn't realize, though, at least until the last reel, is that her husband, Harrison Ford's Norman, a brilliant research scientist, has been having an affair. When his student and lover Madison threatened to expose him, he killed her and put her body into the lake overlooking their home, hence the haunting. Already having killed once to cover up his actions, he similarly tries to off Claire when she figures out what he's done, though he isn't so lucky that time. So, that's an affair, a murder, and attempted murder, all in the name of keeping his extremely well-paid career. Number 3, Billy Loomis is the real killer. Scream. The runaway success of Wes Craven's post-Freddy...
You know, his inability to keep his dick in his pants. I honestly felt like that was the precursor to AHS's Murder House. That's what I was going to say. Because Harrison Ford's character reminds me of the dad. Like, professor, good paying job. And then when he fucks up with infidelity, I mean, she does find out, they move across the country, but when his girlfriend gets preggo, he murders her and puts her in the backyard.
Right.
You know, and then they do end up dying. Spoiler. But again, I felt like that was sort of character basis for what they did with American Horror Story.
Right. Hey, speaking of Scream.
Right.
Billy Loomis
Skeet.
is the real killer. Scream. The runaway success of Wes Craven's post-Freddy horror franchise Scream cleansed the palate of an increasingly tired genre. This meta-slasher also has a nasty portrayal of its heroine.
Great slide.
Understand
Fucking
this.
fantastic slide.
I will never get tired of the classic slasher genre.
Right.
Okay? I love the campiness in it. It's fantastic.
Yes.
Tired genre. This meta-slasher also has a nasty portrayal of its heroine, a classic Craven final girl. Here we pick up with Sidney Prescott, grieving for her mother who was raped and murdered almost a year prior. The cops think they have the killer behind bars, but when Teen Casey is slain and the bodies begin to pile up once again, everyone becomes a suspect. Now, Craven knew the rules of the genre. Hell, he helped invent them, and he laid them all bare for audiences in this flick, including the trope of the killer hiding in plain sight. Billy, Sid's boyfriend, is at first the main suspect, as his mobile phone, rare for 96 by the way, falls from his pocket right after Sidney receives a threatening call and is attacked. He's arrested and later released, and despite him being really quite creepy, there's just no motive for him. Well, no motive yet. Billy finally seduces the cautious Sidney, only for he and his accomplice, Matthew Lillard as Stu on fine, freaky form, reveal themselves as the killers and announcing their betrayal. So yeah, nice one Billy, Sid's crying. Number 2, Trevor.
So it's not just him, I was going to say, that is the betrayal, because honestly, so Rose McGowan's character is Sid's best friend, and she's dating Matthew Lillard. And then, you know, Neve Campbell is dating Skeet. So it's like both of their boyfriends, and they do manage to, well, kill off her best friend, everybody else around them, basically.
Right.
So I would say that that's kind of a double betrayal, but it's a good example of one.
For those of you that were wondering what I was doing, I took a picture of our kitty who's sleeping underneath our fuck you statue.
Yeah, she is sleeping on our incense burner.
It's adorable.
I mean, she's charging up. She's sleeping on the crystals that Suzanne sent. So, you know, she's got to get a good charge under the light of the light ring. You know?
And I figured it was a good time, considering I really don't like Scream all that much.
Wow. You like the first Scream, just not as a quote-unquote horror movie.
Yeah, the first movie's okay. It's
Yeah.
watchable. I just... Yeah.
I like the first movie. I won't go as far as to say I love it, but I really like the first movie, and more as like a comedic horror, not... But I did think that they did very well. And it has a lot of actors and actresses that I respect. I just honestly don't think I would have extended it.
Right.
Candyman!
I do love this movie, though.
Yeah.
And announcing their betrayal. So yeah, nice one Billy, Sid's crying. Number 2, Trevor abandons Helen.
She's
Candyman.
not dying,
Golden
though.
Rose's 1992 urban legend cult Candyman is an absolute belter. It chronicles the story of post-grad research students Helen and Bernadette who are finalizing their thesis on urban legends when they hear of the Candyman, a demonic killer who appears if you say his name 5 times
Bloody
in front
Mary.
of a mirror. Unsurprisingly, Helen is quickly catapulted into a waking nightmare, dared by the Candyman to be his victim so that the legend can live on. And at one point she finds herself inexplicably covered in blood at the scene of a crime, with one decapitated dog, one missing baby, and a screaming mother who attacks Helen, blaming her for the grisly mess. She's then arrested, and when the Candyman claims another victim, she's committed to a mental ward. Her husband and lecturer Trevor appears to offer all the love and support she'll need to prove her innocence. Well, right up until Helen escapes and returns home to find him playing house with another student. Yes, that's right, it's another husband who can't help but become a mad shagger when he's needed most.
Mad
Helen's
shagger.
journey ultimately takes
Mad
her to
shagger.
the grave, but she still has one more trick up her sleeve. As Trevor remorsefully repeats her name, she appears in the mirror, Candyman style, now a vengeful ghost to get her revenge. Number 1.
But the bummer is they don't carry that beyond the first movie.
Right. Which would have been... It was actually a very good twist. But, you know, us white girls, instead of running when they say urban legend, we're like, where's the mirror?
Right. I absolutely love Candyman. I've not seen the remake yet. I probably won't till I can stream it.
We're super excited about seeing it, though.
But yeah, I was super stoked to hear that they were doing it.
Yeah, that's one franchise that is fantastic.
There's not a bad movie in it.
And new. Like it's a fresh take. Like, there's not...
It's actually a sequel.
Well, but what I'm saying is, like, there's not a huge amount that the Candyman franchise in general.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of, like, borrowed material. They well, I mean, other than Bloody Mary, but they did a very good job. So.
All right, The Descent is a damn good movie.
Yeah.
JUNO'S Multiple Betrayals, The Descent. Neil Marshall's 2005 genre mashup is part monster movie, part claustrophobic thriller. It's well written, well acted, and well scary too. Sarah, grieving for her daughter and husband killed in a car accident a year prior, decides to go spelunking in the wilds of North America with 5 pals. When the cave tunnel partially collapses though, they must find another way out, but there's another problem as they're sharing the cave with a bunch of murderous crawlers. Leading the group is Juno, the most experienced yet paradoxically most untrustworthy of the lot. It's revealed early on that she was having an affair with Sarah's husband at the time of the fatal car crash, which is betrayal number 1, and to make things worse, she's led them into a previously uncharted cave system, so there's no chance of a rescue, so that's betrayal number 2. As the creatures attack, Juno also accidentally stabs Beth through the throat with a pickaxe, and instead of helping, she leaves Beth to bleed out and returns to find the others, which is, of course, betrayal number 3. When Sarah finds Beth dying, Beth reveals Juno's multiple betrayals, leading to a pretty intense showdown. So that's our list. Want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. What do you think of these?
That's an excellent example because it was one person, multiple betrayals.
It's a damn good list.
Yeah.
Especially
other than interview.
Vampire.
Yeah. Bite me. The only thing about The Descent, and this isn't like, I don't get the heebie-jeebies like people get with like Hostel, right? Because that's a completely different type of heebie-jeebie that I will entirely attribute to horror, and it goes along with the horror movie genre. That's great. It's part of the horror experience. When the monsters are fucking slimy like that, it's just gross.
I think my only complaint with it, which they can't help because it's what it is just how dark the movie is.
It's in a cave system. Yeah.
I'm like with horror video games, I usually turn the brightness up because like if I can't see where I'm going at all,
you're right. It kind of loses a little bit.
It loses almost all of it for me. Like you spend most of your time being like, am I walking into a wall?
But I mean, I suppose like on the flip side, that is part of like how they set up the ambiance and like the jump scares, and I get what you're saying for sure. And obviously this was in a cave system, so you know, but on the flip side, there's certain movies that I'm like, okay, well that's just gross.
Right.
I mean, special effects are fantastic. Like, makeup artists did a great job. I will 100% give them their props, but on the flip side, it's like, was that necessary? Right. It's just nasty. I do get it. It's a cave system. It's damp. They're going to be slimy, but, you know, ew.
All right.
Yeah.
That was fun. We'll have one more top 10 at some point later.
Yeah.
That one's actually based off of video game cutscenes.
No.
In horror games.
Okay.
So.
All right.
All right. So, with that being said, if you guys like the video, slash that like button, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, comment down below. What did you think of What Culture Horror with 10 Worst Betrayals in Horror Movie History? Also, comment down below if there's anything else you guys want to see reacted to. Check the description below for all the things.
Push our buttons. Come join us on our other social media platforms, mostly Twitter if you want a quicker response.
With that being said, we love you guys. Thank you all for watching. Cannot wait to see you depraved people later.